in addition to just giving IDOT samples of the material that we are testing, we have to give them all of our test data on a daily basis also. So at any one time, an IDOT inspector, either at a central office or on the project, can come in and see all of the, all the data, all the charts, all the gradations for all the tests that we've run. Then in addition to that, with the samples that they take back to their laboratories, they can randomly test those samples to verify that what we're telling them is the actual case. We have as Holly indicated, we have an extensive quality control staff. And in addition to just testing our own product, if we're buying ready-mix concrete from a ready-mix concrete supplier, it's the contractor's responsibility to test that material. If the ready-mix contractor has a lab of his own, then he will test it at the plant site. If not, we have to go to the plant site, and then we have to do the testing on the job site before that concrete is put into the forms.
Very good. Let me ask you about managing people. People are the most important element in any project. If you want to give advice to a new project manager, what advice do you tell him or her about managing people? How would you successfully manage people?
Yeah, I'm laughing a little bit because that is probably our biggest problem. In probably your courses, you've taught that communication is the biggest problem in industry. I think it probably has been back to the cavemen when I'm sure somebody made a square wheel instead of a round one, and it's our biggest problem today. A week doesn't go by that we don't have problems with communication. We're going to have a company managers meeting this Friday, and one of the major issues is going to be communication. I think that probably when mistakes are made on the job site, they're never made intentionally. They're made because somebody doesn't understand the instructions or somebody doesn't understand what they're supposed to do. And that even goes back to safety. We try to have an orientation period for each new employee that explains to the new employee what they're supposed to do and what is required of them. But communication is our biggest problem, and even today with all of the pagers and all the cell phones and laptop computers, and we have our offices all tied together with dedicated lines so that we can send emails to the offices instantly. We've got internet access at all our offices, but communication is still the major problem. And if we were looking at anything, at any one characteristic of a manager, one of those things, or maybe the primary thing, is they have to be a good communicator.
Now, talking about communication and the modern ways of paging and so forth, how about verbal and written communication? I mean, how would you put this in the business? Verbal versus written?
That's an interesting question. By far now, the vast majority of communication is all verbal. The state requires a certain amount of written communication. If there's a change order, for instance, if we were to go out and we're supposed to pour 10 yards of concrete, and for some reason they wanted the form increased so that it would require 15 yards of concrete, then there would be some written communication to indicate that was a change order. But on that day, then it would have been a verbal communication where the state would tell the supervisor, we've got to increase the size. The supervisor would order the concrete or have the forms built first and then order the concrete. That would all be verbal. So I would almost think at this point that 98% of all the communication on almost every construction project is verbal.
Now, if somebody on this slide says 50 and the other guy heard it 15, now this is a big difference, and it may mean losses and responsibility between 50 or 15.
Yes.
So what would you do with the verbal?
Or
You say 15, I had it 15.
It probably, the real problem is when you wanted 15 and they send you 50.
Yes.
Each one has problems.
Yes.
That's right. But and those things do happen with our type of work where there are so many things involved. In other words, you have the superintendent on the job site. You have to have trucks hauling the material to the job site. You have to have material ordered in advance into the concrete plant or the asphalt plant in order to make the material. In most instances, there are more than one involved in the process that knows what the quantity should be. So we don't have a lot of problems that way, but occasionally it happens, and then you have to make decisions in the field, and you have to scramble very, very quickly, particularly if more material comes out.
Yes.
And yes,
What do you do with this?
because in the case of concrete and asphalt, you have a shelf life, and that shelf life is about 1 hour.
Yes.
From the time it's produced until the time it's put into forms or till the time it's laid with a paver. So you have to be quick. In our particular instance, what will happen many times is that one job will call another job and say, there's been a mistake, we've got 10 cubic yards of concrete too much, or X number of tons of asphalt, is there any way you can use it? And frequently that's the case. It can be used somewhere else.
Holly, after people, we have time.
Yes.
Time is the most valuable, precious commodity, I guess, and we have only 24 hours a day. Now, time management can make or break a project.
Absolutely. A lot of our commercial jobs, if we're doing a parking lot for somebody and they're wanting to get the store open, it's very important that you work with their schedule. IDOT also has time constraints on our jobs. They either do it two ways. One, they give you a set number of working days to get the job done, or they give you a completion date. So it doesn't really matter what happens before that day, but that's the day you have to be done. So on all projects, you have a time constraint, even if it's somebody's driveway. They want it done as quickly as possible.
Yesterday.
So yesterday, yeah, and stop messing up my life. So it is very important that project managers keep abreast of time schedules. When we start the project and estimate the project, we put in how long we think it's going to take to do each different step. So we give our project managers kind of a roadmap to start with, a plan of how long we think it should take. Obviously, you get out there and you have changes like Charlie talked about, or you have problems, and then you run into things that extend the time. But time management is very important to get the projects done, and I would say that's probably one of the second things they need to look at is ensure that it gets done. And if you're not going to get done at this date, you almost need to figure that out 2 weeks ago. So you can work extra hours, you can work Saturdays, you can do something to make up that time, as opposed to coming to the last day and saying, oops, I didn't get it done. So that's one of the pre-planning process that a project manager really needs to do. Instead of really worrying about what we're doing today on the job, you need to be thinking about 2 weeks from now.
What would be your material, so to say, to put a good estimate of how long would this job take, or how long would it need, or something? Do you need to make a breakdown structure for what's the types of work that you need to do, and